Hello, in this video I'll be creating an entity relationship diagram using visual paradigm. What is an entity relationship diagram or an ERD? This is a diagram that shows the relationship between entity sets. Now in database management systems, an entity set is referred to as a real-world object that can be stored in a database. Such real-world objects could be cars, houses, school, and these entity sets have attributes, and these attributes help to describe what an entity is. For example, a car as an entity would have attributes such as color, name, number of wheels, engine. These help to describe what an entity is. Now, why do we actually create ERDs? One reason why we do this is to define our database and to structure our database and help us to know the kind of data we are storing in that database. In this tutorial, I'll be creating a simple ERD for a store. We can have different types of store. We can have retail stores, beauty stores, pastry stores. So let's say you're creating a database to save different stores. I'll just create a simple ERD to help you visualize how the database would be. So I've opened Visual Paradigm. I'm using a professional version. I will just go to new. So I just give it a name. Let's say I name it store ERD. So okay, go to entity under database modeling. I go to the entity relationship diagram, right click on new entity relationship diagram. Now I have my canvas to add my entities. I click on entity, and the first entity I have is a store. Now each store should have a unique identifier, which is an ID, and that will be the primary key. So I make this my primary key. Next, I have the name of the store. Now I can change the data type to be a varchar instead of an integer, which is a variable that can take 255 characters. Next, I add the location of the store. I make it a varchar as well. Next, I add the type of the store. This could be maybe a retail store. And last, I just add a little description of the store. Is it a small store? Is it a big store? Varchar as the data type. Okay, so I have my first entity. Next, I have to add other entities and relate them to each other. So next, I have the product entity. So each store should sell different products. First of all, I add the product ID, which is a unique identifier of each product and as the primary key. Next, I have the name of the products. The name should be a variable varchar. Next, I add the manufacturer varchar as well. Next, I add a description of the products. I add the price, and for price, I use a number. Or I could use money. No. Okay, I use decimal instead. Okay. Now I link the product and the store. So I use the relationship one to many. And this means that a store could have many products sold. So once I click on OK, you see there's a foreign key which is the store ID. I just rename this. That's the relationship between the store and the products. Next, I add sales. Each product should have sales. I add the sales ID. Next, I add the retail price of a product. That could be a decimal as well. Next, I add the quantity of the product sold. That's an integer. So each product can have multiple sales, and I use a one-to-many relationship. So automatically my product ID appears, which is a foreign key. Okay, I make the sales ID the primary key. Now that's the relationship between the product and the sales. Next, each store should have staff working for the store and also customers. So those are the next entities I will add. Staff, there should be a staff ID for all the staff. Next, the name of the staff. The name should be varchar. Next, I add the position of the staff. And lastly, I could have the phone number of the staff. That should be a varchar as well. So now I add the relationship between the store and the staff using a one-to-many relationship because each store could have many staff. Okay, I get the store ID as a foreign key. I make the staff ID as a primary key. Lastly, I add the customer entity. Now each customer should have a customer ID, name, maybe an address, phone number. Now I'm using camel case here. You see the P is a lowercase and N is uppercase. And maybe gender, I can use a char. Okay. So now I create a relationship between the store and the customer using one-to-many relationship. So each store can have many customers. Okay, I have my foreign key. I make my primary key. Now this N represents nullable, means this data is optional, but I can just turn them off. So they'll be required. Yeah, now this is just a simple tutorial of how to create an entity relationship diagram. I hope it was helpful. Thank you so much.